Sorry, I am late, guys. Hit the snooze, and we are 20 minutes late. So let's get down to it, see what the market is up to. Negative, first thing again. Good morning. Still waking up. I just woke up and realized, oh man, it's 4:50. I gotta be on stream already. Mm. Slightly ripped to futures right now. Yeah, it's not super red, but it's not green either for sure. See, airlines are boned. Okay. Okay. $32 billion bailout. Europe thinks we're through it. Not much in that statement. I still have a buy rating. If you're asking my opinion or my analysis on ACRX is it's a buy rating. So um, I'm not alone. Potential 300% upside. There are five, six analysts on this. There's only one analyst that has it below. But the rest have it up 7, 8, 9, 5. ACRX is all about the weight. And I know that's hard for a lot of people, but it is about the weight. If you think about it in a year, right? How does the spy perform in a year? Okay. 2019 market return was 30%. Okay, that's pretty good. But what if I told you that in a single play, if you were patient over 12 months, you could get 300% increase and destroy the market by 10 times? Would it be worth the wait for you? And this is a really hard thing with long equity bio, which is what I trade. There's such a huge element of patience, and you have to really be firm on your DD as well. So with ACRX, what my understanding of ACRX is they have a sublingual opioid uh, that can only be used in medical environments. So it reduces the risks of opioid addiction, home abuse, black market sales. Um, every single dispenser that they put out is tagged for which ER belonged to. So if they are found on the street, we will know which hospital immediately has somebody selling drugs on the street, which would be phenomenal for the opioid crisis. Um, it saves money with hospital beds. It's faster, it's effective, it's cheaper than most of the drip morphines that are out there. Um, there's an opioid shortage right now. We know that. We know that the national stockpile and the DoD have committed to having the drugs stored. So we're just waiting on when. When are they going to make the announcement of how much or how little they're going to buy of that? Um, so for me, I'm patiently waiting for it. I made some changes yesterday to the portfolio, so I've got to go in and fix this. Yep, I can definitely review Fitbit. Okay, so waiter we got 1,000 of yesterday. Um, This we went up to 1600. And then we sold 800. And then we exited IMMP. All right, this is updated. The big change yesterday was I did enter my position into waiter, on the expectation of earnings are coming up in July, and I just want to be in position for that. Yeah, I think personally I have time on IMMP, so all right, guys. So the play on Fitbit. Okay, so there are 9 analysts on this that have around a dollar upside to Fitbit. Fitbit itself, I don't see as being a big game changer as far as the fitness watches go. But this is a low cost ventilator that has an emergency FDA approval. It is not a um, a replacement for your traditional ventilator, but when there's a shortage like what we're experiencing right now in the industry, this right here is huge. Um, so it's been produced and approved. And there are a couple of folks out there, Dyson as well is trying to do it, NASA has done it. But for Fitbit, I think that this actually goes quite well for them in the event of, well, where we are right now, where we're still seeing global cases increase. So you see the curve is still on an uptick. So as long as beds are getting filled, we're seeing resurgences in the states. This was back in April. They were saying that we have a ventilator shortage. But yeah, that's the play on Fitbit. I would have them at 10, 12 months from now. That would be my analysis on it. And the US really doesn't want Huawei. No problem, Pat. Um, how did XLF do? XLF, guys, which is the market overview for the financial sector, up 2.7. Hmm. Yeah, my favorite suggestion, guides, is this tool here called Feeder, feeder.co. This is by far my favorite tool. I'll show you why. So, when you are in the market all day, you want to be apprised of what is happening with your stock as it's happening, right? And you guys can't see the drop down menu, but there's a drop down menu here when you click on this icon. What it is a bunch of RSS feeds. And for most people, they'd be like, great, so what? An RSS feed. It's not a big deal, right? Well, depending on how you use a tool, right? A tool can be super useful if you have it calibrated properly. So, what I do with Feeder is I go over to Google and let's say Waiter, because I need to create one for Waiter, right? So, what I'm going to do is type in Waiter, go to News, head down to the bottom here, and I click Create Alert, Show Options, As It Happens, Automatic, US, All Results, deliver it to an RSS feed, okay? I create this alert. Oh, there it is, great. Because I have this app extension, I can subscribe to that feed. And what will happen is when I click on this extension now, good morning, Joe. When I click on this extension now, what's going to happen is down at the bottom, there's actually one that says Waiter. And all the news that it pulls is here. So off the hook. This is just a restaurant listing on the Waiter site itself, right? But anything that has to do with Waiter news is going to pop up in here. Um, Financial breakdowns. This would be my best resource, I think, that I could offer anybody as far as scanning goes. It's quick, it's easy. The best part about it is during your day, you don't have to be constantly searching. If there's a number that pops up in here, you know that there's new news about something in a feed that you've created. So this is doing the heavy lifting for you, and it's just an extension. So you see how LinkedIn here has this little red 6? This will have the same thing. There'll be a circle with a number in it, meaning that there's new news about one of the search parameters that you have set up. Sony with PS5. I'm actually less a fan of Sony with PS5 and more of a fan of GameStop with PS5. I've got GameStop at 8. Yeah, so I have searches set up for FDA approvals. So if I go in for FDA approvals right now, here's one. Here's one. There's about 150 in here. Here's all the FDA approvals as they happen in real time. Mergers and acquisitions. I used to have one in here for mergers and acquisitions, but you go through the same process. You would say you go to Google and say merger or acquisition. Okay. The reason why I've got that set up is merger or acquisition. So it was the same thing. I would just go in and I would search this merger or make sure it's capital OR. So you get the Boolean search of either of these results. It's there. You go down, you create this, and it's going to pull up all the mergers or acquisition news that's there for the day as it happens. You'll get it all. We've got searches set up for orphan drug designation, which is a big one. But yeah, that would be not at all. That would be my biggest tip would be to set that up. Takes a little bit of time, but mm, I didn't see the news about it. I don't typically trade in the automotive, and I definitely am not a huge advocate for Ford, but Ford. F-150 with hybrid power boost powertrain. Optional onboard generator. Tailgate that doubles as a workbench. Available power running boards with that generator. So this is spec and design for sure. Active drive assist, a self-driving feature similar to Cadillac's Super Cruise that works on pre-mapped roads. So it comes with the hardware, but you'll have to buy the software when it's released. So it'll be an additional cost for sure. Mm, this is a super high competition market, especially if the hybrid is the big sell. Um, Hybrid self-drive, like you're competing directly with Tesla, you're competing with Nikola, you're competing with Toyota. It's a, I mean, is Ford innovating? Yes. But Ford as a whole, if you look at the stock, I like chill on the back burner. Yeah, so if you look at Ford over the last 3 years, they don't really move. They stay in this range. This drop is COVID. This is them buying back up on hopes that the reopening would have effect on car sales. It didn't. They're back down 6. I think we see them coming up to 7 at the most, and that's it. This thing just blows everybody out of the water. Absolutely everybody. All right, dozens of states adopt Salesforce's contact tracing, so that's big for CRM. Late night court filing. Trump urged Supreme Court to overturn the Affordable Care Act in a case that's set to be heard around the time of the November election. The brief urges that because the law's requirement to have health insurance was upheld in court as tax in 2012, and Congress has since repealed the financial penalty for violating that requirement in 2016. It is no longer a tax and therefore no longer constitutional. I don't invest through there. I just use it to be a quick pull on stream, so I don't have to constantly switch back and forth between my trading. Yeah. Otherwise, I have to constantly switch back and forth between my trading desk and my. I just don't want to constantly switch back and forth sometimes, and so it's just faster for me to hop in Quiffin for a quick referral. The problem with it, it's not real time data. I'm not sure if Robinhood gives you real time data or not, but it's not real time data, which is. These are all the health insurance companies that are going to benefit if ACA goes down, um, which would be a big deal. Trump going to lose? We'll see. We'll see. We will see. I'm still of the mind that Trump wins, which is starting to become countercultural. 3 weeks ago, when I said that, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, Trump's going to win again." Now, people are starting to be hesitant, but to be honest, the way that I see this going is that the economy is going to be the primary discussion, even when they start the debates. There's only 3 debates this time, and the big thing is going to be the economy. Trump is going to keep coming back to the economy and the fact that the economy's stronger now than it was before he entered office, despite COVID, and he plans to go further by yada 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 yada. As far as COVID goes, it does look like mRNA is going to rush to market a vaccine. I don't think it's going to be the greatest vaccine, but it will be a vaccine. Um, Trump is also going to continue to fall back on. He closed down China before anybody else said it was okay, even when they called him a racist for doing it. He closed down China. He's going to say we did the one of the best jobs in the world as far as testing goes. He's going to say he followed the instruction of Fauci and Birx, which he did. There's a track record of, with the exception of the economic reopening, but the economy had to reopen on the basis of we were dying. The economy was dying. so he had to reopen. Is going to be, I think, a lot of the arguments that you see coming from this. The other side is going to be it's going to be very. I hope that his strategy is to lean into. Biden has been in office in some capacity since the 70s. So 50 years Biden has been in office. And if things aren't going well now, after 40 years of being a member of Congress and 8 years of being a vice president in this system, um, he is the swamp. He's the embodiment of the swamp. He's a career politician. Um, and I think Trump's going to rally hard on that. Trump's been president for 4 years. Biden has been in the system for 50. The state of the government is far more Biden's fault than it's Trump's fault, is going to be the argument, I think, in many respects. Um, and it's very difficult for the Democrats to say, well, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, because it's very easy for him to show how the House stonewalled so many of the attempts for him to actually push forward what he wanted to get done. Which I think we can also see a large conversation around the stonewalling from the House and Pelosi. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The polls matter very little to me. The social trends are what matters quite a bit more to me. So this is a tool that you guys won't be able to get your hands on. So let's do Trump. Let's do Biden over the last 13 months. Okay, so Trump is the blue, Biden is the gray. Um, Over the last 13 months, there's over 1 billion references to Trump. Huge spikes here, spike here, sudden decline here. This is the closest that Biden ever came to even touching the amount of conversation happening around him, and that's when he announced that he was going to make a presidential bid. Ever since, nada, nil, niente. Or this is when he was given the nod when Bernie bowed out. This is probably his I'm going to run. But what you see over the last 13 months is the level of conversation around Biden is almost nil. As far as engagement goes, it's not even close. As far as, well, the sentiment is so much different, right? People like Biden more and they dislike Trump more. Well, that's not true either. We're talking 0.3% as far as sentiment goes. So people are talking about Trump more. They're engaging in those conversations more. They see it more often. And the sentiment positive to negative is about the same. It's about 50-50. So for me, as somebody who has seen this played out last time, where a lot of the political polls were saying, okay, well, Hillary by a landslide, Hillary's going to win this thing. For sure, it's going to be Hillary. The social stats like this were saying the contrary. What they were saying was people aren't talking nearly as much about Hillary as they are about Trump. And when they're talking about Trump, it's about the same as far as sentiment. It was actually a little bit more negative with Trump, where I think it was 2 or 3% more negative sentiment towards Trump with Clinton. This is closer as far as sentiment. People see two old white dudes. That's all they see. And neither really represents them. So I think ultimately what the upcoming election is going to come down to is people are going to be looking at, how am I hurting right now? And the two big things that could be hurting somebody, one would be COVID, the other would be the economy. So you've lost a job or you've lost your business, something of that nature. And I think the question that people are going to have as we move forward into the election is, okay, if it's COVID, I do suspect they push a vaccine market by around November. So Trump can say, look, we got a vaccine done in no time flat. We're the first in the world. We did it. If that happens, it's a landslide for Trump, I think. If it doesn't happen, if it's, well, we are on the doorstep of a vaccine dropping. Um, that news isn't as important, but I think that the vaccine being on the doorstep of December, January will make it less of an issue and more of, let's focus on the economy. And when it comes to the economy, I don't know many that would, including the market itself, that would put Biden as the priority in the market over Trump. Um, when Trump got elected, it was nuts to watch the market the next day. It was just like, we're gonna make money, and I think that's much the same with what's gonna happen here. As far as creating jobs, a lot of the swing states. So the swing states, as always, are going to be the big ones to watch. I think they're underestimating Trump in Florida. Um, okay, so Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, Arizona, North Carolina. Okay, so Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. This is the steel belt. This is industrial work. Um, Florida is essentially Trump's home state outside of New York. Um, and then Arizona and North Carolina typically are just that middle ground. They move one way or the other. But I think that this is great that the New York Times poll has it for Biden by a landslide. But this is the same kind of stats that we were seeing for Hillary heading into the election. And when they lost these states, they lost their minds of how could we possibly have lost this state? You underappreciate how much influence and how many connections Trump has in Florida. Some of these polls are even going as far as to say that states like Alaska and Texas are considering leaning into a Democrat. And it's like, I'm pretty sure hell will freeze before we ever see a Democrat win Texas or Alaska. I can't see it. You would have to have a small government Democrat, and I don't see it. Now, guys, I am a Canadian. This is just my insight into it. What happens in your guys' country is definitely your own deal. We got our own problems up here, but I'm definitely still seeing Trump taking this thing. No, I know. And there's some people that are for that, some people that are against that. But I'm not tied to it. There's no heartstrings tied to it. I'm not emotionally tied to Trump winning. It's just from the numbers that I'm seeing, from the stats that I'm seeing, from how the last election played out, from what people's priorities are going in. I'm doing it. I'm looking at it very much the same way I would look at a stock play, where it's like, what is the data? Here's what the data indicates to me, and here's the result that I draw from that. I know that there's many people that are like, but it is what it is. When people are unemployed, they can't pay their bills, they can't keep a roof over their head, they can't take care of their kids, they're going to vote in the person that they think is going to fix that best. And historically, not unemployment wasn't anywhere near as low under Obama and Biden as it was under Trump. Vaxxer doubles on deal to scale up vaccine. Futures are down a little bit, but the S&P is actually up. The other interesting part of the equation, though, is the mail-in ballot. And I think that this is a clever smokescreen where people are going, yeah, but Trump is opposed to mail in ballots, isn't he? I think that he's raising a stink about mail in ballots so that um, even when the vote happens and Trump does win on mail in voting, um, the outcries from the Democrats of fraud. This is inherent fraud. We can see it must be fraud. That's why he won. Well, the issue with that's going to be, well, he wasn't the one pushing for mail-in ballot, and so they can't use the argument of, well, mail-in ballots are the result of the fraud, or resulted in fraud because that's what they wanted. He went, we played your game, we did your system, we used your mail-ins. This is what it is, and they'll say, well, you tampered with it, or you had somebody do this, or somebody do that. Essentially, all he has to do is shake it off and go back to office, which is interesting. So this is June 9th. We're facing a severe opioid shortage. Rip IDEX, yeah. That was a DDTG special at Davy Day Trader IDEX thing. Um, Hospitals chase supply, sometimes resorting to inferior substitutes. The shortfall grew so dire in 2018. There she is. Whenever I read these articles, guys, about people that are key decision makers in the FDA and the medical industry, I head over to LinkedIn and I add them. I have a fairly large network at on LinkedIn, which allows me to pretty much reach anybody. I don't know that you guys will be able to do it, but at the very least, I like to reach out. There's no picture, there's no nothing there, so you can't, unless you were searching for this lady, you would have to know to search for this lady. But senior advisor to the FDA commissioner, that's somebody I want to be able to talk to. No. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so weird that I was muted. Shouldn't have muted itself. That may be an RTX thing. Yeah, RTX closed itself. That's what it was. I think it's weird that it just did that. Um, you guys can still hear me now? Yeah? Okay, and there's no fan. Perfect. When I took the baby away. No, for some reason, RTX just closed itself. Okay. But yeah, what I was saying was, it's gotten to the point where the shortages are so bad that instead of using opioids like morphine or fentanyl, people have started to use paralytic agents like ketamine. And the ketamine is a paralytic, so that means that it's stopping them from rolling around when they've got the ventilator in, but Um, it's not as ideal as morphine. When somebody's on morphine and they're feeling pain, they can still say, "Oh, that hurts. I feel like I'm in pain." But with this, with the paralytic, they're not able to do that. So nurses have to monitor more closely, more frequently, which is more man hours on an already taxed system. Apparently, also patients can have hallucinations, become agitated on second line drug. Um, that's her. What they're saying is that they have SWAT teams actually moving around trying to find these drugs. So fentanyl, pain reliever, 100 times more powerful than morphine. Invented in the 60s. Slow release fentanyl skin patch against oxycodone, oxycontin. Slow release pill. Because the injectables are so much cheaper, that's what the hospital wants. Fentanyl can cause overdose, yeah. So fentanyl, if not properly administered by a physician, can easily cause overdose because it's 100 times more potent than morphine. Um, so what happens is you get people that are getting fentanyl vials like this for $80 for a day's worth of fentanyl, and they're injecting that crap, and they are dying. But this is where the play from ACRX is, guys. ACRX has created a sublingual opioid, so it just means it's a pill tablet that they just drop into the mouth, and they're good. And it can only be used in a prescription setting. It can't be used outside of a prescription setting. Yeah, says there's a web page for FDA backlisted drugs. Backlisted drugs. No, these are people that can no longer order. That's not what I want. I don't want a debarment list. I want drug shortages database search from the FDA. Okay, so let's see here. Z-Pak is erythromycin. That's in shortage. Let's see here. Fentanyl. Shortage. Morphine. Shortage. Oxycontin. Shortage. DSUVIA. Not listed. Interesting. DSUVIA is not listed here in shortage because there's a ton of it. So this Michael Gagno guy is a guy that we actually got a hold of on LinkedIn. So I asked him why they weren't considering using something like DSUVIA, and he said sublingual drugs are not approved for the indications needed for sedation and analgesia in mechanically ventilated ICU patients. They require round-the-clock intravenous sedation to prevent breathing tube removal or agitation that can cause other complications. Some hospitals are supplementing continuous infusions with intermittent IV doses of drugs, but sublingual doses are more difficult to administer in these patients. So he's saying it's out of difficulty that they're not using sublinguals, that they're not using pills. But I think the reality is going to be when you don't have IV drip anymore, you don't have a choice. Um, you're absolutely going to have to make that shift. As each day passes, and I mean, some of it it's getting really scary. Texas bed availability. So total current hospitalizations in the state of Texas, 7-day average through April and May. This is June right now, 4,700. 13% of the beds occupied in Houston are COVID patients. So they're okay right now with the numbers, but if the trend continues, it's not sustainable. So if we continue to see increases in Texas, this is going to be a problem. 76% of their ICU beds are full. Statewide, there's only 1,300 pediatric beds and 380 psychiatric beds available in general hospitals. Yeah. So this is a big deal. As we see more and more. So there's a highly potent opioid on the market you've likely never heard of, DSUVIA. This new drug is 1,000 times more powerful than morphine. Was developed with major funding from the Pentagon at a time when the opioid crisis was exploding in the U.S. So, the drug was developed by the Pentagon, by the DoD, actually, not the Pentagon, by the DoD. So it wasn't the CIA that developed it; it was the Department of Defense as a whole that developed this. And the DoD developed it to remove the need for injectable dosages in military packs, right? So when you're in the field, and a field paramedic, instead of having to inject somebody with fentanyl or morphine, they could give them these tablets and just one tablet in, done. Put it in their mouth, let it absorb. They're done. They're good until you get them back to base. Um, that's the extent of that. Is the FBI says it could be more dangerous. This is the worst reporting I've ever seen. FBI warns against DSUVIA. Why is it? Why is this in sports news? See, this is where things get weird. So the big difference between fentanyl and morphine is you can get prescription fentanyl. Prescription fentanyl. So you can get prescription fentanyl. You can get prescription morphine. You cannot get prescription DSUVIA. It's not possible. It can only be administered in a surgical setting, which it seems to be what this whole thing is missing mentioning at all. It was cleared for use in military kits. So here's the other side of it. So the news and the FBI are going, oh, opioid crisis. What they don't realize is that the DSUVIA doesn't have the crisis because it can't be prescribed outside of a hospital setting. And if it is, all of these are serial coded. So you know exactly which hospital they were taken from and can actually figure out which cart they were taken from. Morphine injections is all that the military kids used to have. They tried fentanyl lollipops. They were found to be very effective battlefield pain relievers. The dosing's imprecise on it. You don't know how much they're actually getting from the lollipop, though. Huge overdoses with injectable opioids. 2012, oi, ¿qué pasa? In 2012, rather than opioids, because there was an opioid crisis in the US, in 2012, they started recommending ketamine for soldiers in Afghanistan. 2015, the Defense Department awarded an additional $17 million to ACRX to continue developing the drug. This has never happened before. Ever. Never happened. So the FDA in 2017 rejected DSUVIA, saying it could easily drop on the floor and bed sheets. The agency cited that the drug's potency and the relatively high number of drop tablets in clinical trials to justify the decision. So what they're saying is these tiny little Tic Tac pills, they kept falling. People would go to administer them and they'd fall on the bed sheet, they'd fall on the floor, and that would be extremely dangerous given the potency of the pill for somebody to just walk along, find it on the floor, and pop it in their mouth. And so that was a huge issue that they had to address. So the drug was initially rejected on the basis of, well, if all you've got is this tiny little pill, then sorry, that's not going to be good enough. In 2018, the military was so frustrated with the FDA's slow approval rates on things that it needs that it looked to just take that authority from them. It was wanted for DSUVIA was wanted in 2018 by the military because inserting an IV line is not feasible in the battlefield. The head of ACRX is saying, I don't know if the DoD was behind us, how it helped, because it was constant delays. Go back, do another study, get older people, get people with that are sicker, get people that are younger, get people that are taller, get people that are of wider ethnicities. It was just constant struggles. So Gottlieb, who used to be a high-ranking member in the FDA, supports stricter standards, but he still doesn't see DSUVIA as a unique threat. DSUVIA was approved, so he emphasized the FDA was requiring an unusually strict safety program that had been established to protect the public. So if you guys see the picture for DSUVIA, where is it here? It was here somewhere. Where'd it go? Where'd the... Yeah. Oh, of course, they want to play an ad over this. Yeah, here. So this is what they created to solve the problem. Each of these injectors has a safety clip on the front, these pieces of white plastic. Um, that piece of white plastic is on the front. You remove that piece of plastic. You remove that piece of plastic and you push the syringe and it pops the pill into the mouth, which causes for less of that droppage where you're trying to take this tiny little pill and put it physically in someone's mouth. They created these so that you actually put the stick into the person's mouth. They don't even have to be conscious. You just put the stick into the person's mouth, right? Push the syringe, it pops the pill in. In the event that you pick up one of these sticks and the cap is already off, you know that it's been tampered with, it has to be discarded and recorded. Um, okay, where were we here? Um, so there are very tight restrictions on the drug. So doctors aren't doing their jobs as an argument against it. So DSUVIA is only available in medical settings. Doctors can't write prescriptions for its use elsewhere. ACRX also created a single-use applicator to make it easier for hospitals and clinics to detect if doses are stolen. So you would buy a kit of 10, and you would get 10 of those dispensers. You would get 10 of those dispensers, right? And if you open a kit, a fresh kit, log says, okay, these were taken out and used by this person at this time, problem should be fine. If there's one missing, you have to track down where that came from. But that's responsibility of the hospital, not the drug producer. So what they're saying is it's going to be harder for people to steal than liquid morphine on the basis that people steal liquid morphine by taking the bags and replacing them with saline water and marking it down that it's morphine. Okay, so this doctor who is adamantly opposed to it said, well, he's had to resuscitate at least 3 anesthesiologists who have overdosed. So anesthesiologists who are doping themselves with these. It's like, okay, well, the problem's not the drug then. The problem is the anesthesiologist junkies in your hospitals. So your issue isn't with the medication and what it's meant to do. Your issue is with the fact that you have anesthesiologists that are absolute junkies working for you. Maybe fire the junkies? So they wrote this warning. The FBI wrote this warning 13 months ago. So DSUVIA has not been widely diverted or misused, according to the DEA. As with all controlled substances, we are continually working with our partners, including the FDA, to monitor trends in diversion. It hasn't happened. This giant red flag of like, warning, warning, people are going to steal this thing and use it. It's going to be a street drug and people are going to die from it. It hasn't happened. It has not happened. So in late April, the Pentagon held a milestone C review for DSUVIA, which usually determines when a product is ready for military use, and approved the drug. At this point, however, no one in the military committed to buy it. It was not clear if they would. The roadside bombs that drove the initial military interest in DSUVIA have dropped precipitously as the U.S. has drawn troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Army Medical Research and Development Command said in a written statement that the military believes DSUVIA is a safe and effective option for treating battlefield pain. Safer than fentanyl with a therapeutic index nearly 100 times greater. It also provides more consistent dosing than the fentanyl lollipop, making it a vital addition to the DoD's inventory of pain management tools. Okay, so you guys are following kind of this ebb and flow that we've done of opioids bad, opioids bad. Yeah, opioids bad. Well, we're still going to push forward with it because we need a solution. Okay, well, fine, we're going to push forward with it. FDA says no, though, because opioids are bad. Okay, opioids bad. We all agree. Opioids are bad. Great, opioids are bad. But this drug fulfills a need that we don't currently have fulfilled in the military, and the military is going to push it forward with or without the FDA approval. Oh, okay, great. Well, the FDA approved it. Okay, fine. The FDA approved it. FBI, what do you think about that? FBI says drugs are bad. Opioids are bad. Okay, agreed. Opioids are bad. So what kind of safety restrictions would you want to see around it? No safety restrictions. We've got enough opioids as it is. Opioids are bad. Okay, we got it. Opioids are bad. At which point, the company went and created those dispensers. They put all kinds of safety measures in place. They made it so it couldn't be prescription. It can only be used in a surgical setting. That means it can only be used in private surgery, plastic surgery, dental surgery, hospitals, battlefields. That's it. Um, to which this single physician who was on the safety board is going, but opioids are bad because I work in a hospital setting and anesthesiologists that I have worked with have to, I had to resuscitate 3 of them because they overdosed on fentanyl. And it's like, well, hold on. First of all, they didn't overdose on DSUVIA. They overdosed on fentanyl. So why are you opposed to DSUVIA versus fentanyl? Follow that up with, why are the anesthesiologists doping themselves? You've got the wrong friends, buddy. If you know that your friends are doping themselves, you need to get them out of the medical field. Now we're at the point where the Pentagon is saying, well, we don't know if we really even need this drug. The Pentagon then held a milestone C review. This was huge, and it was approved on the milestone C review. But now we're at, okay, well, when is the military going to order this thing, right? So ACRX is now targeting 1,100 ambulatory surgery centers along with hospitals. Companies had more success signing contracts with ambulatory surgery centers. Orthopedic surgeries, outpatient procedures are performed than with hospitals, which typically move much slower to adopt new medicines. As of November, DSUVIA had been approved at 105 facilities with a goal to reach 125 by the end of 2019. Emergency rooms are a natural fit. They're saying if somebody comes in with a broken leg, they've got a fractured leg and the bone is sticking out, right? Compound fracture. instead of getting them hooked up to an IV and having them sit there with a cart, right? Why don't you just give them a pill and they sit there and they're fine? And again, here's the disconnect. Every criticism of this is, yeah, but kids are going to use this at home and they're going to overdose. No, they can't use it at home. All right. So there is an order, ACRX. What was this one? Oh, yeah, this is a milestone C approval. Um, ACRX Army kit order. There was an initial order of 30 million from the military. Ah, you can't open this up. $30 million over the next 3 years. This is gonna be exciting. Just waiting on the other branches to go. Yep, yep, we'll take that too. So, implication one of COVID with opioids is doctors are prescribing not fentanyl or sufentanil, DSUVIA, but they are prescribing opioids at home. So it's very difficult for me to listen to physicians saying opioids are bad when they're prescribing people without actually even meeting them opioids. Social ice. So Social isolation is causing higher levels of anxiety disorders, which in turn has people looking for pain reliefs, which is opioids. Supply chain shortages are causing opioid shortages. So calm. This is nutty that this is the special operations website. You can't even scroll down on the page. Like, All right, let's see how the market's doing, guys. That's a deep enough dive into DSUVIA as it currently stands. H&M reports Q2 results. Early market movers. Let's go to Edgar. (13D) SEC filing definition. In 2 seconds, guys. I'll be back. My dog is barking like crazy at someone. Yeah, but I want some food. Okay, Schedule 13D. When a person of a group acquires more than 5% of any class of a company's shares, so somebody made a huge acquisition of this company's shares, which is causing it to spike. This got updated yesterday, right? The dashboard. Now it's 6.1 trillion. $100 million pumped into Soma Holdings. Okay. No, this is what I want. Okay. Who acquired this? Stagwell Agency Holdings LLC. So Stagwell Media is looking to acquire this company. That's what the news is. Okay, so this thing is there. It's for $5 a share. And it's at 3. So I think that this is going to go up. Is there a further breakdown of those dashboard stats? There's a Federal Reserve balance sheet that you can go check out that'll have a more breakdown detail of what these are. This is just a general overview, but that's enough for me. I just want to know that this is still going up significantly because that's good for MFA. FTA rejection. Oh, you don't like MFA, huh? That's okay. I like MFA. Yeah, I see MFA up around the $7 or $8 mark over the next year. Yeah, the volume trading on it doesn't really play for me. So I was in MFA pre-COVID. I was in MFA back in November, December because it had a high yield. It was a dividend stock. It had a 10% yield at $7. So it was just one of those stable stocks that you could hold and run with. Currently, they've canceled that dividend just because, well, I mean, COVID. And it's fallen because of COVID, but they've readjusted. They're actually profitable now, and we're heading into a time where we thought there would be a higher level of defaults and forbearance, and there's not. That's not happening. So I really do see MFA continuing to climb itself back up to that $7-8 mark, which for me, if I can buy in now at 230, 240, 250, and just ride it back up till 7 or 8, and then collect a 10% yield on something I paid $2 for, and now it's $8, I'm okay with that. That's the MFA spiel. It's a dividend play. Um, um, $500 million capital raise with Apollo Global, 1.65 billion through Barclays. This lets MFA exit forbearance, which is huge for its growth. So the big thing that you want to look at here is mortgage numbers for the month, right? We won't be able to get June, but we'll be able to get May. So there's a record missed mortgage payment in April, but for May, mortgage applications. So April, here's the record down, is that negative 17. Following week up 7. So they're net 13, negative 13 for the month of April. For the month of May, down 6, up 2, so down 4, improving. June, is this a May? So right now we are seeing a decline again. These are the last couple. Okay, so for the month of June, actual 9.3 versus the down 3.9. 9.38 and then down 8. So technically we're still up 9% for the month on new mortgage applications. This number should be coming out today. No? When do we get our next mortgage? Oh, we got it yesterday. Or Wednesday, it looks like. Okay, so next Wednesday we'll know what the month looks like, but right now we're up 9% for new mortgage applications, which is encouraging. What is Zooks? Self-driving startup. Oh man, I gotta get ready to get into a BlackBerry Play quick. All right, let's see. Is this just going to continue to run? All right. So EXO had an approval yesterday, as is typical with Biostocks guys when you get an approval. FDA nod on exoskeleton for brain injury. Okay, so that's what it's moving up on right now. Climbed 81% yesterday. It's up another 30% today. I think this is an overextension on this news. Go back here. Let's see. They had a registered direct offering early June that caused it to dump 12%. So this tells us that they need the money. They need the cash. Yeah, the interest rates are so low. People are buying houses, which is fantastic. But that's from a bank. MFA is a private lender. So Bionic shares rocket on FD, not on. Okay, so new designation, but what is the where are their earnings? I want to see how much money they make. They make exoskeletons for spinal injuries. So okay, since mid March, yada yada yada. This is their earnings call for the quarter, for the year. Q1. Okay, China joint venture was a big part. I don't know if they walk again. So they had piss poor orders through Q1, so they are starved for cash right now. They're down half from previous year. Hmm. Not a lot in the way of the questions, not overly in depth. They were saying that they were hopeful on a May 28th approval. Their JV in China was canceled. So this company is struggling. They are hard up for cash. So when you see a spike like this on Exo, right, where they get an approval for a new designation on their tool, you can expect to see it go up. But I'd be watching the FDA filings very, very closely on Exo, on the basis that typically a biostock that's hard up for cash, what they do is as soon as they get a spike on something like this, they capitalize by an offering. 25th filing. $5.2 million offering as of yesterday. So they've already put the offering through for 5 million shares. It's interesting that this just hasn't been reported that they did a $5 million offering. Very, very interesting. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Have an amazing weekend. Stay safe out there in the market today. Hopefully, the markets go green for us on this Friday. You guys make out like bandits. It's looking like it's green right now, if just on the S&P. So stay safe out there, guys. Have an amazing week. I will be back Monday, 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will see you guys then. Until then, though, take it easy.